Yo, what's up, guys? How's everybody doing? This is Mike Wilson. This is the 1218 Show. I am so happy to be back. I cannot tell you how much it's been bothering me that I have not done an episode in a while. But I think on one of the previous episodes, I mentioned how one of my biggest downfalls, holdbacks, whatever you want to call it, is not focusing on the project or the thing that I'm doing on, because I've always got my hands in too many pies. I'm worried about this, and I just get a little bit done in a bunch of different shit instead of focusing and getting one thing done. That being said, the good news that I'm so pumped to share about is that I finally finished my third novel. I was able to kind of rearrange my schedule over the summer and get it exact, like my work schedule, like my 9-to-5 day job type thing. Got it lined up so that I actually have a couple of days to myself and utilize those days to finish my book. And there were times where I was like, I'm going to do a podcast. But you know, that's from beginning to end, it's 2 to 3 hours. And I just, in my mind, I was like, I have to stay focused on this manuscript until it's done, because I'm really proud of it. It's really good. I think it's really good. I worked really hard at it, and I think it's a very readable project. Let's put it that way. So, that being said, it's going to be a while before it's available to read to anybody, before it's out for the public to read. I'm really going to try to push to get this one published. So if anybody out there, by the way, knows somebody that is actually a player in the publishing industry, let me know. I've got a couple of contacts that I'm going to reach out to and really try to finagle my way into getting it read by a legitimate publishing house. If not, I'll work really hard on that for the next, I don't know, maybe even up to a year, but let's say 6 months. And if I can't get it legitimately published, then I'll eventually self-publish again. But I don't want to do that. I'd really like to get this one, because a lot of places, once you self-publish something, and then they say if you were to get something, a deal later, they won't really touch your self-published work. They want the stuff to be originally in theirs from the front, which I get. I mean, it makes sense if people, I don't know. I mean, I don't really know all the ins and outs of the industry, but it makes sense in my head. I don't really know how to explain why it makes sense. That being said, we're going to make this one relatively short, but there's two things that I wanted to touch on. One, I have this idea that I'm going to kind of run as a theme, it's going to kind of be, I'm going to do some episodes where I'm going to do this, you remember that song in the 90s called Things That Make You Go, I think I've always thought that was a funny thing, because I'm constantly seeing things that just don't add up, right? They just don't make sense. And there's been a lot of that, and it happens a lot in politics specifically, happens a lot in the news, and just in general, just life in general, or even your day-to-day stuff, something that may happen at the store or while you're walking down the street. And I think I'm going to start pointing those out. I think that'd just be a fun little segment. It's not what I'm going to make my whole show about. But I'm going to start doing a segment called Something That Made Me Go, And I have a couple of ideas already that I want to do, but this is a kind of a catch-up podcast, so I don't want to specifically do that. The other thing, the one topic that I did want to tackle today, and this is a kind of it is a thing that make you go, So, as you guys all know, that I can't stand the woke shit. I can't stand the identity politics and people using their given circumstances as an excuse or a way to move on. I used to hate this, forever. I hated it, even when I was young and in high school. I remember I was in or maybe in college, I was in a play, and there was all kinds of people in theater or whatever, and there was this dude, this dude that he was gay, and he was openly gay. And in high school in the 90s, that was, still not really super common. But what I hated was that he thought he was cool because he was gay. He wasn't cool because he was cool. And I hated that. There's a major difference there, and I don't care what your bag of circumstances is. If you're a good person, I want to be around you. I like you. I want to that energy vibe. But if you're somebody that is riding on whatever your circumstances are, and you think that that is what makes you likable and or cool or whatever, then you got some real self-learning to do, because that's all phony and it goes away. People don't want to be around you because of whatever superficial or whatever outer quality you carry. It's about what's in your heart, man. It's about what's in your brain, and I get really interested about that. Which brings me back to the thing I wanted to talk about. I have a professor that comes to my job, and I talk to him quite a bit. He's a pretty interesting guy. He works for a major university, and he's a research professor. He's a history research professor. And I'm not going to name him or name the university, but we were talking one time, recently, and he was talking about how difficult he has, the difficulty of his job. Because it's interesting, and I was like, wow, it'd be cool to be an expert in something, blah blah blah. And he said, it's really quite stressful because the university world, it's not just his specific university, but if you're an expert in a field, you are kind of required and bothered to come up with new ideas and new research, new things all the time. Like every year or every semester, I don't know if semester, year, whatever, but every period of time, he's kind of required to publish and have something new. Now his field is relatively broad. I mean, it's history, so he can, there's lots to choose from there. There's lots of unstudied history and lots of things that can't. But it got me to thinking about this on a broader, different scale. And why some of the most stupid things, and I call them stupid because they're stupid, things that are happening in the world today I think they're a victim of this. I think that, let's say that you go and you study gender, and you're fascinated with, let's say you're a biologist and you study gender in not just humanity, but in the animal kingdom, and I don't think that they've accepted that sometimes the research has been saturated. We know all that we need to know. But if he's right, if he's saying that if you're an expert in your field and you constantly have to come up with new ideas and research to back it, then it makes sense as to why they actually have people, because experts, just like this guy, are telling you that, there are more than two genders or more than two sexes. And then they're trying to mash together biology and psychology and make it, a different science altogether. Whatever they're trying to do, not keeping them separate. Biology is one thing, psychology is another. If you don't think that you are the thing that you are in your body, if your biology says you're one thing and your psychology says you're something, that doesn't change the facts. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to change the facts. And I get to wondering, maybe that's why. Maybe that's, if I'm a scientist and I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I am now an expert in the biological sense of Y chromosome versus X chromosome, all the way down to the basics, and then all the way up to whether you have a penis or a vagina or whatever, and then your brain says something else. So if I'm an expert in the biological sense of this, and I have nothing, and they say, listen, we need something new from you, and you're like, there's nothing else new for me to give you. I mean, we know it. We're down to the molecule. We're down to the chromosomes. We know exactly what all this is. So what else do you want from me? well, if you don't publish something or whatever, the university is not going to be happy with, keeping you on board. You got to come up with some new ideas. And it's like new ideas. Once the idea is exhausted, when all the information is there, then why? Maybe you just picked the wrong field, but the fact is people still are interested in this stuff, so they want to become an expert in it. But if you're then required to come up with new ideas in a field that's already saturated with the information, where you know everything there is to know about it, then you make up shit. This is fake shit, right? People are, it's not there's not a gray area. You either have XY chromosome or XX chromosome, which determines whether or not you have a penis or a vagina, which determines how much testosterone or estrogen. Like it's all been proven. And so when people want to change because they're psychologically different and they think that it should be something, they have to go to the doctor to do it. We're not amphibians. Nobody that's a female just suddenly becomes a male. There's a 1 in 100 million chance that you're born with both sets of plumbing or whatever, but they can still go down and check out the chromosomes. We're talking about 0.0001% of the population where there's some kind of, mutant, let's just say, and that's not a bad word, but it's like some kind of mutant formation during the process of, being created, and you're born with, some sort of mixed signals or wrong, double plumbing or stuff like that. I mean, it happens. It's not, but these are just people that, first of all, it's not anybody's business. They can go about their lives and, deal with it with their professional people, their doctors, their, psychologists, their parents. These aren't issues that are, in today's world, we're very accepting. I mean, it's not like you have an arm growing out of your head where people are like, ugh, people are just like, oh man, that's unfortunate, and they move on with their lives. Again, back to my very first thing, if you're a good person, then it doesn't matter. I'm not worried about what your set of circumstances are. It doesn't make you cool or not cool. It doesn't define you. It doesn't have to define you. And we're living in a world where people are trying to be defined by whatever their circumstances are. And it's just like, take away all the basic ones, the ones that the TV always talks about and stuff like that. Like, you don't have to be defined. If you grow up poor and if you grow up rich, I had friends in both worlds, but there were kids that I knew that were poor that let that define them, versus they were just good people. And the irony is, the people that let that define them, most of them are still poor today, and they don't really have a good social circle and set of friends. Their family's a mess. Their kids are poor. Everybody's unhappy. But the guys that were poor, that had good hearts and had good parents, and an understanding that, oh, I'm poor, this doesn't define me. Grew up, and it's probably most of them are doing well now, like relatively speaking, right? They have jobs, they have careers, they have retirement funds, they have these things. Same thing with the kids that I knew that were rich. Some of them were so like, oh, my daddy's this, that, and the other, and let that define them, and they're still assholes. Whether or not they still make money, I don't know. I don't keep in touch with any of them. But there were other ones that had proper upbringing, and they just knew that it didn't matter. Like, I'm still a good person and a good heart. So anyway, what defines you is what's inside and how you treat other people. That's it. It's what's inside, what's in your heart, and how you treat other people. How do you treat other people? None of the other stuff matters. Now, do I want you to take care of yourself? Yeah. I'd much rather you see you healthy, in shape, doing, things. But these aren't things that define you. These are things that you do for yourself to make sure that your head's, and your body is still in tune, allowing you to make it. If you talk to somebody that's, say, super overweight, and they often, can, let's say this particular person is, in a bad mood sometimes, or unrested, or tired, or whatever. It's, they can still be a good person, but they would be much happier if they were healthier. And so these kinds of, everything at all plays in, but neither one of those things needs to define them. It's just part of their life. And so, yeah, I want you to be healthy. I want you to take care of yourself. I want you to, groom, like these, these kinds of things. But that's all, again, for your own, doesn't really matter as long as you're a good person. But all these kind of play into being a good person, right? If you feel better about yourself, you're going to treat the world better. It's just kind of a thing. All right, I kind of went all over the map here, but my whole point, the real point I wanted to talk about was the university stuff. You know, these scientists, these so-called experts that keep coming up with asinine stuff and studies to back it up. And I think it's because the market, there's nothing else to study, and they have pressure to find something new, so they make shit up. That's the point. That's the 1218 show point. That's the 121 point. That's the 12. I don't know. What should we call that? I need like a. You ever watch Gutfeld? And when I go period. Or the thing. This video of the day. Anyway, I need to come up with some little stuff like that. Some jingle fun stuff. I don't know when I'm going to get a chance to do another one. Hopefully next week. I'm going to try to get back to doing it weekly like I did in the first 8 months or so that I did this. I really enjoyed it. I just haven't had the opportunity. But my novel is done. Not done complete, but the first draft. My first draft is done, and I'm very excited about it. I will keep you posted on the process and the progress as it unfolds. It's the holiday season. Happy Thanksgiving that just passed. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. All that stuff. But hopefully I'll be on here again before the Christmas has arrived. In the meantime, love your parents. Talk to them. And I don't know, man. Happy holidays. It's good to be back. All right, guys. I love you. Take care. Peace.